Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. One of the most heralded CRPGs of all time is, without question, Disco Elysium. Incredible writing, incredible dialogue, just incredible characters that really stick with you for an extended period of time. There are a lot of disco-like games that we've seen since it has been released, but the studio that created this game, Zom, has pretty much folded. They're working on something right now, but most of the people who were actually involved with creating Disco Elysium have left, and they've all gone to try to make other studios. Now, one of those studios is Longdo, and they came out with a Kickstarter yesterday for their game called Hopetown. Now, Hopetown looks really interesting to me. I enjoyed the trailer, and I enjoyed the ideas that they have regarding how to make this game distinctive from other CRPGs that we have played. But unfortunately, there's a lot of turmoil in regards to this particular project. So even though I did support the Kickstarter, and I do hope to be able to play this game at some point, and I support it, I think there are some issues that everybody needs to know about, and there are some aspects regarding how other devs have been treated that I strongly believe need to stop, and they need to stop as soon as possible. And I believe more content creators need to start talking about this overall situation. So even though up to this point, I've honestly completely ignored everything going on with Zom, even though I did a review for Disco Elysium and we live streamed some of the game on the channel, obviously I really enjoyed it. I've ignored everything regarding Zom because it's such a Minotaur's labyrinth of snakes and different layers of issues going on that I just didn't feel like it fit on my channel. There is a content creator called the 41st Precinct who did about 16 hours worth of podcast content and interviews with both Argo and Dora. I'm sorry, I can't remember her last name, but both of them were very instrumental in getting Disco Elysium out the door. He talked extensively with both of them and really provided a comprehensive view on the issues. So I'll leave a link down below to that series if you want to check it out and really understand everything that happened as far as Zom. But for the purposes of this video, what you really need to know is that there's a guy named Riaz Mullah. He's a millionaire, and he founded a studio called Longdo, which is creating Hopetown, right? Now, previously, Argo who was one of the main veteran developers involved with creating Disco Elysium, he was a consultant with Longdo Entertainment. But for whatever reason, that relationship folded, and when he walked away, Riaz sued him and basically barred him not only from being able to create his own studio, but from my understanding, really being able to get work in the gaming industry, period. To the point that Argo had to open a GoFundMe because he and his family were basically destitute. It was a really ugly situation. We're gonna talk about it later in this video. Now, I posted yesterday regarding the Kickstarter because I had just assumed, because we hadn't heard anything else, that the whole situation had already been taken care of, that both parties had moved on, blah, blah, blah. But it was made clear to me very quickly when I posted that that's actually not the case. And these two are still completely embroiled in a legal battle. That is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to talk about it more. Again, I want to see Hopetown come out, but at the exact same time, I completely understand the anger and frustration regarding what's going on with Argo. Let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, so first and foremost, as I mentioned, yesterday, Longdo launched its Kickstarter for Hopetown, and they posted on Twitter. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. A dev would, of course, will want to advertise their Kickstarter starting. The interesting thing about this posting, they didn't allow anybody to respond, as if they knew this is going to be a problem. There's a lot of people who are going to be upset, and so we're not even going to allow you all to taint what it is that we're trying to do. Now, Of course, to me, in this type of situation, you might come out with your own statement and try to, let people know, hey, this is our stance on it. We don't agree with the way Argo's taking it, but nope, they included in their FAQ, do you want to talk about, and they respond, not really, no. We want to focus on the game we're making, and the journey we'll go on together to make it. We're thrilled that there's so many studios that are continuing the legacy of the isometric RPG, and we're glad to focus on that future, not the messiness of the past. Well, there's a whole lot of Disco Elysium fans who reposted this and made it clear they ain't ready to move on from nothing. They are not they are not happy with what's going on. I mean, it's just a whole row after row after row after row of people who are calling long due out and basically making it clear they feel like they're scam artists. They feel like their game should fail. It's pretty freaking insane. And of course, 41st Precinct is one of those people, basically making it clear he feels like the studios are scam artists and that the folks who donated to this game are never actually going to see any of their money. Now, before we move on, I think it's important to show how serious this situation got, or has become rather, and why people are so upset. And I think the best way to do that is to look at Argo's own words. So I donated to the GoFundMe he released a few months ago, basically saying that he was in desperate need of help. And because of that, I was sent a couple of updates in February regarding the whole Disco Elysium, regarding the whole long due situation. I don't check my email all that often, so I didn't see that before. But during my research, I picked up on it. So we're going to actually read through two different updates. Now, this first one is a thank you that he sent to everybody who donated money. And I want to read through this because, again, I feel like it makes it clear how messed up this situation was. So it starts with, thank you for supporting Help Disco Elysium writer survive the winter. Yeah, it was that deep. 2 months ago, I stood by a dead van in the middle of the night on a windy French highway after leaving behind the life I had lived in the United Kingdom for the past 6 years. Freezing, sleep deprived, and dead broke, a terrifying realization dawned on me as I looked at my partner and our 3 cats waiting in the van. I put us all in this horrible situation, and I really don't know what to do next. Fiasco after fiasco that led to this moment crossed my mind and filled me with the kind of cold fear I thought only accessible to children. The fear of being helpless and small. This was the absolute low point of my life since I can remember. I came very close to regretting standing up to the mighty and the corrupt, since it was now my most beloved who were paying the price. I will never forget that moment, because without it, I would have never experienced the love and support you wonderful people have shown me. We don't ask for help in the wild, wild north. It's easier to just curl up and die than to admit that I am not enough. It's not strength, it's fear that isolates us from love. This morning, I woke up to a notification that the fundraiser had reached its goal. It feels surreal, unbelievable. In less than 2 months, get out of here. It can't be. Thank all of you generous, compassionate people who have not only saved me and my family from financial ruin, but also given us the means to continue the fight I came close to abandoning on the side of that highway in France. I cannot even begin to tell you how moved I am seeing how people who themselves have almost nothing still find it in their hearts to help someone they've never even met. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for your donations, both small and large. Thank you for the love and the support, your kind words, and the time you have given me. Thank you for restoring my faith and resolve. I'm not scared anymore. I know what I have to do. That's powerful. As a person who donated to him, and I put out a community post on YouTube so that other people on the channel who are fans of Disco Elysium go donate as well. Like, I feel like, hey, this was something worth contributing to, and it definitely made me feel good as well. But that just lets you know, like, Riaz really tried to take Argo to the brink. He tried to take him through the ringer and pretty much take everything he had just because Argo wanted to make another game. And we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but part of the reason for that is Argo has real bona fide credentials when it comes to being a developer and a main part of what made Disco Elysium so great. Whereas the people who are involved in Longdo Entertainment, while there's a note about, hey, this is from the same team that made Disco Elysium, when you really dig into it, I think that I think that's kind of on shaky ground. And so you'll see that in a minute. But there's another update here that I think we should go through as well, because one of the main things people have been talking about is that the injunction Riaz filed against Argo is actually supposed to expire on April 1st. And that's the assumption that everybody had been under, that, hey, once we get to April, Argo is going to be free. And on top of that, he's going to be able to speak a lot more regarding everything that's happened. Well, in another update that he had sent to the GoFundMe supporters, he makes it clear that actually it's possible that that's not the case. So he mentions here, as far as updates go, Justice Mills grinds slow, and I don't have exciting updates on the Code Grammar Battlefront yet. Code Grammar is another company that Riaz owns, and he's basically suing Argo through Code Grammar. I don't know why. I don't understand how all that works. I'm sure it's something shady, but that's the situation Argo finds himself in. But we are entering the discovery phase, so a lot of evidence is going to become publicly accessible. Meanwhile, the Riaz Mullah continues to violate the cease and desist we got against him, attempting to contact us via unofficial channels, third parties, etc. I got emails from Hyperion Dev, another company that Riaz owns, that state we've got 48 hours to comply with another set of insulting terms. Blanket gag clause, us paying the money you donated for his legal costs, etc. In exchange, Mullah offers not to file for the extension of the injunction to August 2025. So basically, Riaz is trying to get him to agree to a bunch of crazy things, or this madness could continue for several more months. And who knows whether or not Argo even has enough money to be able to go on for that length of time. And to be honest, that's part of what kicked off this whole situation. When Argo made the decision to leave Longdo and start up his own company, Riaz tried to force him into an agreement that would make Riaz one of the main investors in that new studio, that would force Argo to make Riaz a C-suite member of that studio. And Argo was like, nah, I'm not signing up for this. There's no way I'm letting that go down. And so now he's being blocked from basically doing anything else. Now, this kind of thing is kind of more popular in the tech industry, right? In the tech industry, if you work for one tech company, they might say, hey, well, you've got this non-compete clause and you can't work for any other similar type of tech companies because we can't afford for our proprietary information to be shared with our competitors. But that's not the way it works in the gaming space. In the gaming space, if you leave one dev, then you just go to another dev. Like, I've never seen something like this before where, hey, you left Owlcat so you can't work at Larian Studios. This is nonsense. This is crazy, crazy, corrupt nonsense. And it's really unfortunate that Argo is going through this. All right, so now you have the basic foundation, right? You understand the lawsuit, who Longdo, what Longdo is, who Riaz is, who Argo is, et cetera, et cetera. So now let's talk about the specific people who are involved with creating Hopetown and why it's being advertised as a game that is being created by, specifically, they note, some of the team behind Disco Elysium and Kentucky Route Zero, right? Trying to make it clear that, hey, people like Argo and the actual creator of Disco Elysium, Robert, they're not involved, but we got some other people who were a really strong part of making Disco Elysium great. All right, now, Let's actually start with these last two names. Ben Babbitt is one of the trio of game developers that created Kentucky Route Zero. I have no idea what Kentucky Route Zero is. I've never played that game before. But if you look it up on Steam, it's got very positive reviews, and that's after 2,800 reviews. So that's substantial enough to say, okay, this is a real game that a considerable amount of people played. And again, it's very positive. Even the recent reviews are very positive. So from my standpoint, seems like he's got some indie game chops, although I think it is worth noting that this game came out in 2013. So it's been quite, I guess, since this is the only thing they mentioned, it's been quite some time since he created anything else. But at the same time, again, it seems like having been involved in the creation of this game, especially since there was only 3 people on it, is something to be proud of. So absolutely, that's a boon to the studio. And then we have Pawel. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was the music composer on the soundtracks for The Witcher and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The soundtrack for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is probably top 5 greatest soundtracks in gaming ever. So this is frankly a big deal. But it also kind of brings up another issue. If you've got a multimillionaire behind your studio and he has enough money to sue Argo and keep him from being able to work anywhere else, and he has enough money to get this guy to do the soundtrack, which I can only assume it's absolutely not cheap, then why is it that you're doing a Kickstarter? Now, they mention in the trailer for the Kickstarter that the game is already financially backed, but that they're doing the Kickstarter because they need, I guess, to prove how many people are actually invested in this, like how many people want to see this type of game to presumably, I guess, get more investment. But again, if the money is the problem and you need more investment, then why are you suing Argo? Why don't you stop paying those lawyers and put more of it into your studio, and then that'll probably help some of the problem. And I don't know if I agree with this note, but there are definitely some people who have been pointing out that Riaz is known for using bots, and that they feel like a lot of these backers who supposedly pledged money are actually just bots that he's had do this in order to inflate the numbers. And the reason they say that is if you take 52,000 and then divide it by 848, you're going to get $60+. So basically, the number that it's at right now, it would seem that the majority of people donated, somewhere around the $60 range, which doesn't make any sense. Usually in these type of Kickstarter deals, you're going to get a whole lot of people who are donating like $5, $10. You donate what you have. And so most people don't have $60 in order to donate to a venture like this. I think it's definitely noteworthy. I feel like I haven't paid attention to this breakdown in enough Kickstarters to know for sure whether or not this is really out of the ordinary. But it is funny to see so many people who definitely feel like this number and these backers, this isn't really legitimate, especially considering, again, when you look at what's been posted on Twitter and even my experience posting on Reddit, I haven't seen anybody speak about this game in a positive fashion. I have literally seen nobody. I think I'm the only person on the planet who retweeted this, who retweeted their stuff and said, hey, there's a new CRPG coming out, y'all. We should all go support it. I think I'm literally the only one. And so to see so little support for this online, but then you somehow got almost 900 backers donating $53,000, I don't know, something to think about. But regardless, let's go ahead and dive back into this list of people, right? So we've got these two that's separate from the conversation. Then there's Len Brown, and they say Len Brown, the narrator for Disco Elysium. Now, again, I'm a big fan of Len. I think he did amazing work. And in fact, it's not one of, really the main reason I donated to Hopetown is because in that trailer, it kicked off with his voice and it brought back so many amazing memories. And I would just really, really love to have yet another game that shows off his work yet again. And so again, I'm hoping Hopetown comes out, and I'm hoping that it's a full, robust game that lives up to everything they're talking about. And I hope it's a chance again for Len Brown to shine. But that being said, to say that he's the narrator of Disco Elysium, I think is kind of misleading, because it gives the impression that he was a part of this from the very beginning, and he was not. Len was a part of Disco Elysium, the final cut. And for those who haven't played the game, the final cut was a free update that was provided to the game that put in or included voice acting throughout the entire experience. Now, let's be clear, it made a big difference. Big difference. I think there's a massive difference between playing Disco Elysium and playing Disco Elysium the Final Cut. And Len Brown is a major reason for that. All that being said, Disco Elysium was a big deal before the Final Cut update came out. It was already highly regarded for its writing, for its art, for everything that I've already talked about. So to just present it here as, Len Brown, the narrator of Disco Elysium, and not add that final cut part to make it clear that, hey, he's part of like the second phase or really the end phase of the game, I think this might be nitpicking, but I think it's a little misleading. I personally think that's a little misleading. But let's move on to the two bigger issues, all right? First of all, Martin Luiga, right? This is really the guy who gives the studio bona fides to say, hey, there are people involved with Disco Elysium who are a part of making Hopetown the game that it's going to be. Martin is one of the main writers for Disco Elysium. He's absolutely someone who is responsible for a good deal of the success. He's part of that core group, right? Now, he posted regarding this game. In fact, I'm not the only person who reposted it. Martin did as well. And he said, hey, you can help me develop the RPG genre and the livelihood of my family via donating to this Kickstarter. I am positive we can make something rather interesting. Now, it's interesting the way he says the livelihood of my family, because Martin and the poverty that he's dealing with have definitely become a subject of discourse. Basically, it appears at least he accepted a payout from Riaz, and this happened sometime in February. So basically, in the midst of Riaz, in a lot of ways, destroying Argo's life, or at least attempting to, Martin then accepts this payout in order to make things easier for himself. And so someone mentions that, does a posting for it down here and says, hey man, I'm obviously just a rant on the internet, but the optics of Longdu suing Argo and the studio he wants to create, Summer Eternal, don't sit right with a lot of people. Obviously, you got to do what you got to do, hustle mode and all that. And I'm sure the Kickstarter will be successful, but I'm not even sure what you could even realistically say to get people like me off your back. But the whole thing just leaves a sour taste in one's mouth. So Martin responds, I will acquaint myself with the materials regarding Argo's case, and I will develop an opinion about it. I have already suggested they drop the case against Argo, as they would be good for PR, and there's not much to win there, in my opinion, but they say it is hard to stop the courts now. I take 350 euros a month from the Estonian state, an incredibly evil entity that has destroyed countless lives. I think this this whole little section here comes off as bullshit. And I think it really makes Martin look bad. There's just no way he doesn't know about Argo's case. There's just no way he doesn't know about the details and the materials regarding Argo's case. You And that's part of the reason why I read Argo's letter, so that you would understand the depths of what he's been dealing with. There is just no possibility Martin doesn't know. No possibility whatsoever. And to repeat Riaz's slop about, well, it's hard to stop the courts now, at the same time that you're threatening to extend the injunction, that's crazy. And that's crazy that Martin would play this part. To be clear, Martin and Argo are friends, or at least they were friends. So it's not just like, this is not just a peer. This is not somebody, hey, we made a game together, but other than that, we don't really know each other. These people are friends. And I'm actually going to read Argo's statement about it in a minute that makes it clear how hurt he is about this. This is crazy. This is crazy to me. And then to relate it to taking money from the government, what the government does and what and the evils that your government are capable of has nothing to do with the personal choices you make to get involved with evil, corrupt people. That's not the same. That's not the same, though. So to make it like, hey, well, I take money from the state, that's the same thing as taking money from Riaz. No, it's not. No, it's not. And let me be absolutely clear. Argo in his thank you letter, basically he understands he bears responsibility, or at least some responsibility, for the situation he's in. I am not saying that Michael is wrong or evil for taking this money, but I am saying that Michael should be honest about it. Should be honest and straight up about it, or just not say anything. But to make a statement like this on a public platform that he knows Argo uses on a regular basis, Argo is going to see this. And instead of just, if you're going to say something, then just be straight up with your friend. Don't put out nonsense like this. What do you think you're accomplishing? And so Argo, at the time that it was announced Michael had taken this money, he put out this statement. For months, Mullah Riaz has been approaching every disco-credited dev, increasingly desperate to give literally any substance to Long Dude's spiritual successor claim. Time is running out and there is none. I worked in Zom from 2016 to 2024, and the first time I heard of or met Piotr was in Dark Math, 45 minutes before Carr fired me. Stolen Vala, the game. We'll get to that in a minute. One by one, the disco veterans turned Mullah down, and the line of disco vets in long loop got thinner and thinner. Yesterday, that changed when, for 5,000 euros, I don't know if that figure is actually correct, the man with whom we've been through shit and piss, Talin and Tardu, Evermere and Revachol, sold his name to the world's poorest millionaire. For businessmen, it's just business, I guess. For me, it hurts in a new and interesting way. Farewell, my friend. We had a good run. And then he also puts up this photo of a rapper who had removed all of his posts regarding Palestine before announcing he had a new McDonald's brand deal, and included a quote from Malcolm X. You can cuss out colonialism, imperialism, and all other kinds of isms, but it's hard for you to cuss that dollarism. When they drop those dollars on you, your soul goes. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Argo is was deeply hurt by it, and I just feel like this situation was handled very poorly, and it continues to be handled poorly and poorly communicated, and all of that just brings Hopetown down. It's just not a good look. no matter how you slice it, it's just not a good look. It doesn't mean, I want to reiterate once again, right? I support Hopetown. And I want to remind people that Riaz, as corrupt as he is, he's also a millionaire. Not supporting Hopetown is not going to damage him. It's not really going to do anything to him. It's going to damage the devs who are involved with creating it. And as much as I don't like the way Martin has handled this situation, I don't feel like Martin deserves that. I don't feel like Martin deserves to have a game that he's written on all of a sudden fail because you've done this terrible, horrible thing. I don't think Len deserves that. I don't think most of the other dozen people at this studio deserve to have their game fail, just because they're being run by a person who is corrupt. Like, where does that train of thought stop? All right, all the games that Ubisoft is involved in, all the games that Microsoft is involved in, all the games that EA is involved in. At the end of the day, if you're not going to support a game because it's connected to somebody who's corrupt, you're probably just not going to play any games. I know that that's rough to say, but at the end of the day, that's kind of the situation we're in. But let's go ahead and circle back because there's one other person I want to talk about. You heard Argo briefly refer to Piotr Sobolweski. Very, very interesting character. So let's first go to the gamer, and I'm going to leave a link to this article in the description. They talk briefly about him. Something that both Roberts, and that would be, I believe his name is Grant Roberts. He's the creative director for this game, was also previously, he's the narrative director for this game, and he was also previously the narrative director for SBI Sweet Baby Inc. Yeah, I know some of you are going to hate me saying this, but it's actually one of the reasons that I'm really curious to play Hopetown, because I've never played an SBI game. And I keep hearing people shred them and say terrible things about it and say they make all games worse. And then I'm hearing a whole bunch of other people say that's not true. They don't have that kind of power, et cetera, et cetera. But I've never played any of those games. I didn't play Suicide Squad. I didn't play Spider-Man 2. So I never felt comfortable diving into that conversation because I just don't have enough frame of reference for the work SBI does. Very, very curious how a narrative looks when it's run by someone who spent an extended amount of time with SBI. Hopefully we get that opportunity to find out. Anyway, something that both Roberts and Sobolweski say won't be used in the game is generative AI. This was raised by some of the disco community due to Sobolewski's background in AI. So he went into further detail about this when we spoke. I have a PhD in AI, and I do enjoy doing that and developing AI apps and consulting companies with regards to implementing AI in their processes, he tells me. But when I play a game or I read a book or I listen to some music or I watch a movie, I always try to look at the art piece through what the artist was feeling or was trying to communicate through that art piece. I think that's how many sensitive people are taking in and digesting art, he continues. And since I use the word digesting, I can make a reference to food. Making games and creating art is almost very similar to cooking because you also digest that and you either feel that it's tasty or not. When I try to consume the content, at least created by today's AI, I feel like I'm eating plastic. Argo basically says he feels like that's a bunch of bullshit and that Riaz is strongly in favor of AI, and that's almost certainly why he brought Piotr onto the team. So he said, he calls him Longdu seems to have had a change of heart on generative AI because this is what founder Mullah pitched to Dora and I on July 10th, 2024. And so this walks through, it says, hey, no one has publicly announced the successor, generative AI hype and clear application to psychological RPG genre, generation of voices, text, and images. Create a tech company that is a video game studio that will experiment and use groundbreaking generative AI technologies for the video game entertainment world. So obviously, Riaz is a big fan of everything in regards to AI. Well, Argo released the text messages between him and Riaz that make it clear he was very strongly against this from the start. And so this is back in August 18th, 2024. Riaz sends him a text regarding how AI could actually change the gaming industry. And Argo says this reads kind of like a generic hype piece. First of all, hyper-realistic visuals is such an elusive phrase. In some ways, it could never be achieved, and in some ways, it was already achieved in the mid-90s. I remember playing the first Half-Life and thinking, that's it. Where will we even go from here? It's photorealistic. Then Crysis and CryoEngine dropped in 2007, and it seemed that must be it. This is what really reality looks like. Then GTA 5 and Witcher 3 came around. I think desirable level of realism was achieved a long time ago. And when I say desirable, I mean the kind that left room for the most power graphic chips in the world, player imagination to do its magic. ultra realism is not even arousing the casual gamer base anymore. Even they're moving toward the colorful, cartoony, over stylized look, a la Fortnite, Borderlands, League of Legends, Hades, etc. To me, ultra-realistic graphics is the enemy of immersion and imagination, something that's actively blocking the next qualitative leap. Remember the animatrix from early 2000s? Remember how distinct and interesting all the snippets look like? Would it have been half as impactful if they all looked like the Matrix movie? In a way, I feel like generative AI is directly undermining immersion because the brain is on a subconscious level very much able to pick up when something is artificial. And when it does, the same old, if you didn't care enough to paint, model, design, write this, then why would I care enough to play it principle applies. It makes it hollow. Amazing breakdown. Damn. I feel like this was a really great way to make it clear with your boss why what he thinks is so great doesn't really work. But Riaz responds, it is more the interest in this space right now from a tech and investment perspective. He's trying to make some money. It is good to be aligned to trends like this. It is very hard to raise money right now in everything except generative AI. The trouble with trends is they come and go, and the formula for making something truly timeless is to make something that the advancement of technology can't make obsolete. Besides, developers hate generative AI. So do the artists, the writers, designers, musicians, voice actors, etc. Fans hate it too. To tell you the truth, it seems the only people who love it are the investors. Argo is just a real one. This kind of shit is why people love and support him so much. Any association with generative AI would not only be a career suicide for me and Dora, but it'll also make it very hard to hire good creative people. Why would anyone help advance something that's going to come after their job in the near future? I think we should take a very clear opposite stance, so when the AI fatigue reaches critical mass, the people sick of it have an ethical game studio to align behind. 100% in agreement. 100%. Riaz goes along and says, let's speak about this more in the internal Hyperion Dev chat, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, as Argo said, his enthusiasm failed to find a target. Great stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff. So that probably gives you some idea about why Riaz is aligning with Piotr and would bring him onto the team. Someone who not only had some connection with Disco Elysium, as we'll get into in just a bit, but also he's into the same kind of thing that Riaz is. Riaz really wants to figure out how he can use AI to just automatically churn out more of these games and avoid situations like he has with Argo. If AI could do the job that Argo was doing, then he wouldn't have this issue. But there's more, and it gets even more cringeworthy. So this is an article from VG247, and again, I will leave a link down in the description. So talking about Piotr once again, Roberts referenced that Sobolweski believes Disco's devs pretty much opened the whole book and created a canvas for games to be created on, like a new genre. Meanwhile, the technical lead has raised some eyebrows in terms of his connection to the original Disco due to his LinkedIn profile citing him as a co-creator of the highest rated PC game of all time according to Metacritic. That game is Disco Elysium. Since our interview, the bio has seemingly been changed and now simply reads world-class IT advisor, which frankly isn't much better. All right, I'm just going to keep it a band. As somebody who's in the IT space, calling yourself a world-class IT advisor it's not really worlds better than trying to claim that you're the co-creator of Disco Elysium when you're clearly not. But let's keep going. Well, I think, and this is Piotr talking, well, I think Zom mentioned multiple times that the Knights basically saved the game. And when he references the Knights, he's talking about the Knights of You, which is basically a team of developers who can assist other developers with their Unity games, cleaning up some of the code and helping them get out the door, right? So let's continue on. Save the game, save Disco Elysium. So for quite a long time, we were the core development team behind the game. Is that true? We're going to get into it in just a bit. And many of our ideas landed in the game. I'm mentioned in the credits. You can check the credits of Disco Elysium. There is my name. I played some little part, but not going to jump into details because I was just the CEO of the company, the Knights of Unity, not anyone who was working directly on the game. And then he just steps all the way into it. So I'm not bragging that I co-created Disco Elysium. I'm going to check this line on LinkedIn. I think that I am entitled to say that partially I co-created the game because I pretty much created the company that co-created the game. And I also had some ideas that landed in the game. So why not? I have never worked in Zom, that's true, but I've known them for, I think we started working together many years ago. And yeah, I think it was quite popularly and quite openly said that the Knights of Unity pretty much saved Disco Elysium. Every person for the Knights of Unity who worked on Disco, I would call a co-creator. Definitely. What? You already know. Argo responded directly to this, and he let him have it. Stolen Valor, the game. I'm not bragging that I liberated Berlin, but I used to buy pop from a guy whose granddad collects World War II memorabilia, so can you really say I didn't liberate Berlin? Yes, you little rat fuck, I can. Disco Elysium was in production from 2015 till the 15th of October 2019. Knights of Unity took over the development side, polishing, fixing the code, as I understand, from our in-house team in February 2019. Do the math. For 4 years, passionate people like Marcus Rondo, Dragab Hervé, Sam Madima, Mick Luiga, a bunch of different people gave everything to make Disco happen. And Piotr claims that because his employees helped us across the finish line in the final months, he is a co-creator of Disco Elysium? Fuck no. I've had the privilege to work with many former Unity Knights, warm-hearted, talented, hardworking, wonderful people who actually meaningfully contributed to Disco Elysium and X7, and I can't imagine the shame they must feel reading his statements. To many of them, Sir in the front of their name is more than a gimmick. It means something. Shame on you, Piotr. You are no knight. Take it from Zom's head of operations, Piotr Solonin, who said, Piotr is the ex-CEO of Knights of Unity. He didn't do shit for Disco other than sign the contract between the companies. He certainly didn't supervise any team. The Knights worked fully under Zom supervision. Also, technical partner, you weren't even in Longdo. You were just as you weren't in Zom, just as you weren't in Dark Math. Backpedaling clown. And this is from another gamer article. He hasn't been on the team as long as Roberts, but he's feeling confident as development wraps up. I think that from my perspective, I just joined last month as an advisor. I'm just 1 foot in. I'm looking at the team and they are so talented. They can really do something new. He wraps up. And then finally Argo says, point of view, I'm Piotr and I'm about to save Disco Elysium. And this is a screenshot of basically the last day of Disco before you head to the island and can end everything. Funny stuff. But this honestly really highlights people's fear regarding AI, right? Like, this is the prototypical guy who wants to be able to take your voice, take your face, take your likeness, take all your work and be able to repurpose it for himself to make money for himself and then claim in the process, oh, well, I own this. This is my creation. I did this work. Like, this is the AI bro that everybody fears, and it's ugly. It's ugly as all hell, and it doesn't do anything to help sell Hopetown. It's all just wrapped up in his own ego, and it's unfortunate. And I'm sure it's only causing people to be more upset. And yeah, that's it. Damn, this is longer than I thought it would be. I thought this was going to be a quick video. I am so sorry, but I really wanted to take my time and give this justice and make sure we went through all the details so that people have a clear understanding about what's going on with this game. And so you can make your own decision about whether or not you want to support Hopetown. Once again, I did donate my money. I donated to the Kickstarter. I don't regret that. I'm not backing off of that. I do not. I believe the purpose of it is to actually come out with a game. There are a couple of people involved with Long Do who I feel like are sketchy, who I feel like have no business really in gaming, and yet there's Len Brown, there's Pawel, there's other people who are going to be working on this game, and hopefully I get the full version of it that is voiced by Len and has a soundtrack that's similarly amazing that's similar to what we got from Witcher 3. And it'll be something that a lot of CRPG enthusiasts can enjoy. At the exact same time, I want the lawsuit against Argo to stop. I want him to be free. I want him to be able to create his own studio, do his own thing. I just want everybody at the end of the day to be peaceful and get what they want. So hopefully that happens. We'll see. April 1st is right around the corner, and we will find out if that injunction ends up getting extended. I am sure Argo will let us know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know if there's anything that was unclear in what I said. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a like, please, if you enjoyed this. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.